Welcome to the Honest Health Podcast with your host, Jeffrey Burke. Honest Health brings you the brightest minds in the natural products industry, as well as athletes and entertainers. Jeff will keep you entertained and informed while educating on how to be successful on your healthy journeys. Now, here's your host, Jeffrey Burke.
Hello and welcome back to the Honest Health Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Burke and I'm your host. I'm so glad you're back. Hey, if you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to the platform. If you've been listening to me for a long time, welcome back. Always glad to have you. The purpose of this podcast, as with my radio shows for so many years, is to bring information, to educate, to engage, and to provide enthusiasm about getting healthy, being healthy, and staying healthy. And I think it's really important, probably more than any other time in the past. Today, we have a lot more at our fingertips to use, more delivery methods, more protocols that are now available. But there's a lot of confusion that comes out with a lot of these things that are out there. So we want to bring clarity, and I want to bring you the best of the best guests in the industry. My guest today, Ric Scalzo. Welcome, Ric.
Thank you, Jeff.
Everybody knows Ric, and if you don't, you're going to learn that he brings a lot to this industry and has brought a lot to this industry. We're doing this amazing series, and it's going to be a series of individual herbal products. And this is episode 2 of our herb journey with Ric Scalzo. And today we're going to be talking about ashwagandha. If you missed the last one, make sure to go back, go to the YouTube channel and pull up the first one, which was on turmeric. It was really, really great. And there was a lot of good information. But let me give you a little bit of a bios, a little bit of information on Ric, and we're going to dig right into ashwagandha. Ric Scalzo began his journey into herbal and naturopathic medicine in 1980, studying naturopathic herbal medicine, eclectic herbal medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, and various diagnostic practices. He received a master's degree in herbal medicine from the School of Herbal Medicine and an honorary doctor of naturopathic medicine from Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine. Renowned for his innovations in herbal medicine and personal commitment to retaining herbal integrity, today Ric continues to innovate herbal remedies and is a leader in the movement to integrate regenerative agriculture into the world of herbal medicine. And when you're starting to hear that word a lot more, you're starting to hear those words regenerative and all those amazing buzzwords that are out there. We're going to make sure that we bring you clarity to that as well. So help me welcome my guest. Ric, welcome to the platform.
I'm happy to be here again, Jeff, and especially today. We're talking about ashwagandha, so very exciting.
I think it's going to be amazing for people to really get a better understanding. You know, we get fragmented bits and pieces of things along the way. And I think if everybody had a better understanding of these amazing herbs that were given to us from Mother Nature, we would enjoy them more. We would probably utilize their benefits more often. I think we would have a better understanding. I mean, if you're working in a health food store, it's going to be amazing. If you're a healthcare practitioner, learning about these herbs is going to be better for you as well. And if we're just the consumer, why not know a little bit more? So ashwagandha, boy, is it getting a lot of buzz.
It's getting a lot of buzz, and certainly it deserves a lot of buzz. I thought, one of the places where we could start this dialogue is in the ancient Ayurvedic texts.
Okay.
Ashwagandha originates from that area in the Far East, in India especially. And if you were to go back and study ashwagandha from an Ayurvedic tradition, you will learn about all its applications in the Charak Samhita, which are texts that go back to over 5,000 years. Imagine that.
Amazing.
This is how much knowledge is supporting the use of ashwagandha. And in the Charak Samhita, one of the things that is constantly repeated over and over again is how ashwagandha shows up as a rejuvenator. And that's how we have come to know it in different terms. But in Ayurvedic language, they call this a rasayana, which means that it helps to restore, to repair, to invigorate the vital force of the body. And, why so much emphasis was put all these years ago on it being a rejuvenating herb. Do you know, have you kind of touched base in that, Jeff, at all, or heard of that before?
I have the Rasyana. That's like one of the principles of Ayurvedic medicine. True,
It's
and mean
yeah,
longevity.
it's one of the approaches of, yeah, we can say one of the approaches of longevity.
You know, I think one of the mainstays of ashwagandha has been, and the popularity, and this is just my personal feeling, is that it has always been so effective, and
Yeah.
people were able to see and feel a difference. And you know, I think that that has been a strong point of ashwagandha. And even today, in a very impatient world, we're seeing a lot of people that are gravitating to this because they're seeing results. Now, obviously, not all ashwagandhas are created equal, but if you're using a good quality ashwagandha, you're going to get a noticeable difference. And today, people need to see something, feel something, make a difference. Otherwise, it's kind of the attention span kind of dissipates very quickly because impatience is a virtue today.
Well, one of the reasons why it sets itself up as such a formative herb is in Ayurveda, we can learn a little bit about how it works. There are 7 dhatus that Ayurveda teaches us, and the dhatus are the tissues in the body. And, and the more fundamental tissues in the body, the more powerful the effect it has. So the most fundamental tissues in the body are the reproductive fluids, the semen and the ovum. And it is said in Ayurveda that it nourishes these fundamental tissues. And this is very important because what the next formative set of tissues are the bone marrow. And that's where we get all our immunity, from the bone marrow. And, Ayurveda is said to fortify and strengthen the formative tissues in the body. And it says that it gives men the ability to, and I don't, this is all kind of like historical scripture writing, but it said men have the ability to impregnate 1,000 women with the use of ashwagandha. And its counterpart, which was shatavari, which is considered more as a female herb, it said that you take shatavari, if you're a woman, you have the ability to bear 1,000 children. That's only, saying it in a very graphic way to imply that these 2 herbs, ashwagandha and shatavari, are the 2 herbs which Ayurveda recognized as being the most formative herbs to repair, restore the vital force in our body. And especially when you think about that vital force nourishing your bone marrow, how does that show up for our immune system?
Wow.
So it's an immune fortifier in that respect. So this is the concept of what a true rasayana is. It helps to sustain the vital energies for, the lifespan.
You know, it interests me sometimes when you really dig into the history of an herb like ashwagandha, and you see that the data goes back even to a time when things were written on scrolls, and how the documentation has been done, for centuries, and just passed on. And it there's so much information out there, and how the application of an herb like this today can be just as important as it was thousands of years ago, because
Yeah,
we're still human. We still have needs and those kind of things. Obviously, it's a much more stressful, crazy world now. But the thing is, I think the need and the necessity and the power of it is just as important today. And I love that about herbal medicine, that
it
we can
is.
get a benefit like that.
Yeah, and today the time is different. We
Yep.
have we have environmental disruptors. We have a lifestyle that's highly stressed. We have,
Yes.
foods that are nutrient deficient. We have so many things that are kind of rubbing against us and, demanding from us. But what they all speak to is we need to raise our baseline level of adaptation. And we need to be able to adapt to stress in a way that isn't distressing to our body or to our mind. And that brings us right into a dialogue of this whole concept of what is the general adaptative response and how does ashwagandha support adaptation, day in and day out.
You know, I hear a lot of lectures and I hear a lot of people talking about ashwagandha, and it's been very popular and the tip of the tongue of people that have been educating on it for a long time. But it seems over the last maybe 10 to 15 years, its popularity has grown rapidly. And it's one of those amazing nutrients that when somebody tries it and they love the way that it actually makes a difference in their life, they like to talk about it.
Yeah.
So my foundation has always been give people the information so when they talk about it, they have the information to pass on, which is really important so that we're passing on the right information, because there's a lot of confusion out there. And I think the more advancements we make in our industry, a lot of confusion comes along with it, and then you end up having to, like the internet is a double-edged sword. You can find anything you want, you can Google anything, and if you're the only person in the world that says something, you can guaranteed find somebody on the internet to agree with you. So but I would rather have people have the best information, the most up-to-date information, and that's kind of the main reason for this series, is that you know we're in a different place, a different time, a different mindset, a different state of health. We have a lot of choices that we make along the way. And I think if people have the right tools, I think it's all about tools, and they can make better, wiser choices. But the popularity of ashwagandha is not just something that we're seeing in our country. I mean, I have friends around the world that talk about how the sales and the popularity of ashwagandha is exploding and around the planet. And I think we're going to continue to see its popularity grow. Do you see it growing more today than it has in a while?
I think it has to. I think, the stress impact in the world is greater than ever, and people are looking for ways to minimize the impact of stress. When I was in naturopathic school, I took a real liking to the work of Dr. Hans Selye, who won a Nobel Prize for his work on stress. And he said something that really was so it just made so much sense to me. He said there is no stressful situation in life, only a stressful response. How we respond to stress determines the effect it has upon us. And then he went on to elaborate all about our adaptative system. And he talked about how there are three different phases of that are embedded in our adaptative response. The first one is the alarm phase. The second one is the stage of resistance. And the third one is the stage of exhaustion. And, let's say we show up in the world today in a state of equilibrium, in a state of balance. And then suddenly, Jeff, we are exposed to a stressor of some sort, whatever it may be. What happens in the body at that moment? And it doesn't take long. Hormones start to be secreted. Cortisol levels go up. Galvanic skin responses change. You start going through a stress response. This is the alarm phase. And what determines whether that stress is kind of what Hans Selye talked about as euphoric stress or distress? What determines whether or not it's a good stress or a bad stress is really your capacity to adapt to the stress. So if you have good adaptative capacity, you are going to naturally move back to a state of equilibrium. And this speaks to your capacity for resistance, where you can normalize again. But if you don't have good resistance and good capacity of adaptation, and you prolong the exposure to stressors over and over, eventually you will start to fall into a state of exhaustion. Your energy levels will lower. You'll have more fatigue. You'll have less quality sleep, less productive sleep. You'll start to show signs of a weakened immune system. And eventually you'll start to get sick more often. And this is the exhaustive response to stress. At this point, you start to use your vital force for your day-to-day energy, which is not a very good thing. You want to use, get your energy day to day from your food, your water, and your air, but not from your natural, your inherent vital force. So what we think when we think about how we manage adaptation, every one of your listeners should ask, how well am I adapting to the world of stress? Am I
True.
adapting euphorically or in a state of eustress, which means that I'm managing it well? Or am I, acting in a stage of distress, which means I'm getting stressed out? And, and this is where ashwagandha comes in play. It helps us to manage our adaptative response.
I think probably most people are in a very frazzled, distressed way today. And I don't think most people that I know, myself included, it took me a long time to be able to be adaptive toward the stress response, because when I was younger, I used to do the 0 to 100. It just was one way or the other. And it took me years to learn how to find that balance. And that took everything from, adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha to self-reflection, to breathing therapy, to Pilates, to meditation, to all these different things that I've tried to incorporate in. But it's a job to be able to do this. And I think most people are in a stressful situation most of the time. And I do not think that most people respond well to stress. And I think most people would probably admit it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, if that is the case, then most people should be using ashwagandha.
Absolutely.
And, and I'm fortunate here in Costa Rica that I have Cocora, our company, has a farm where we probably this year, we're probably going to plant out 50% of the acreage in ashwagandha.
Wow.
It's a herb down here which grows very well during the dry season. So, Jeff, you should see our greenhouses now. They're just loaded with planting trays of ashwagandha, and they're probably
Exciting.
ready to put out into the soils first week in January. And we'll see that ashwagandha growing beautifully in no time. But
and the growth cycle is how long on ashwagandha?
Yeah, we grow it down here because we're in Costa Rica, we're tropical. We grow it down here in 6 months, 5 to 6 months.
Okay.
And, we grow it regeneratively. And if you wish, we can talk about what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But, in that short of time, in a tropical, we can get roots that are, I would say, close to 2.5 feet long.
Wow.
And, really, really potent with phytoactivity.
This question comes up every once in a while, and I'm just going to throw it out there. Today we see a lot of people that are on pharmaceutical medications for anxiety and stress. And that just seems to be across the board, benzodiazepines and stress response medication and stuff. And I think a lot of them, if they were given the choice and even knew that there was an availability of something that could really help, they would probably go that route. But a lot of people still, feel that medication is the only way to go. This is a question that comes up to me a lot. If someone is on a medication for stress or they're on something for anxiety, can ashwagandha still be incorporated in?
It's a good question. It depends what medication they're using. I'm often resistant to recommend to people that they should just cold turkey stop their medication and take the herb.
Me too.
Because there's a reason why they're on that medication, whether or not you believe it or like it, there is a reason for it.
Yep.
And I may not know that at the moment. So I would say, you could talk, if you really want good advice, that's personalized, see a naturopathic doctor and ask for guidance on how to make that transition smoothly. I, for one, would opt to make the transition. But I think it's a personal process because you don't know what's behind what's driving that stress or anxiety.
I agree 100%. That's exactly the same verbiage I use because I want to feel comfortable with that transition because I don't know everything behind the curtain. And, sometimes finding yourself a good naturopathic practitioner can really kind of work with you on an individual
Yeah,
basis. So thank you for
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
So ashwagandha, something that people can use long term. Do they need to cycle it at all?
Yeah, I think because when I said it targets the deepest dhatus or deepest tissues in the body, this takes time to build up. And, any herb that is adaptogenic, like ashwagandha is not necessarily intended for short-term use. So when we talk about an adaptogen or a herb that's addressing the adaptative, response system, um, I'm going to say 6 months is a good window to try it for and to see if if for some reason you can raise your baseline level of adaptation, your baseline level of resistance, if you sleep better at night, if you have much more resistance to stress when stress occurs, if your energy levels are more level, more even at a higher level during the day, that will take a little time. But this is the kind of herb ashwagandha is. It's an adaptogen, so it will take a little time. But be patient, and yet it does work.
I've been a big fan of ashwagandha for the longest time, and I think that it's made a difference in my world, and I've recommended it to, I can't, the numbers are huge, to people over the years, and I've always seemed to have a good success rate with them getting benefits as well. You had kind of quickly just kind of talked about the regenerative nature of your farm down in Costa Rica. I'd love for you to expand on that because people are starting to hear the word regenerative. They're starting to hear it. They're asking questions about it. And this is something that I think is not just here for today. This is where we're going and where we need to go for the sake and the health of our planet. Would you talk a little bit about the regenerative nature of your farm?
Yeah, and also the regenerative nature of ashwagandha cultivation, which is really important since those roots go deep into the soil.
Mhm.
And I've always been a fan of organic. Most people who know me know that now I'm converting my philosophy on organic cultivation to regenerative organic cultivation, which is a much more fundamental stewardship of the soil and the soil food web. And the soil food web is a term we are using to talk about the microbiome of the soil, all of the different elements in the soil that enable plants to flourish. So here we're talking about the beneficial bacteria, beneficial fungi, the beneficial nematodes, the protozoa, the arthropods, the macroarthropods, and the myriad of hyphae and the mycelia and hyphae in the soils, which are the network that connect the soil food web together. Um, we don't see our soil food web day to day, even those of us who are farming. It's all underground, but it's a myriad of life underground that is orchestrating the betterment, the benefits of our plant. In other words, it's creating aeration for the plant. It's creating portals in which root structures can grow down deeper into the soil. It's carrying nutrients. It's enabling nutrients to be carried to the roots of the plant. It's protecting the plant from pathogens and predators. So all of this is happening in an unseen way underground. And when I will tell you how we grow ashwagandha, for those who don't know, it's a member of the nightshade family. So it has a little seed, and each seed pod, which looks like a little small red fruit, contains about 15 or 20 little seeds. And those seeds are then collected on our farm. They're dried down, and then every year in late November, we plant the seeds in the greenhouse and we sprout them out. I can't remember how many plants we put, but this year it'd probably be close to 100,000 plants. And yeah, it's quite the scene in the greenhouse right now, and we're just before Christmas, so it's beautiful to see it all. Like we've got probably 95% germ rate on ashwagandha, and it's quite exciting.
It is
And
exciting.
and then when they're about 2 inches tall, they're ready to put out into the soil. So how do we prep the soil? Regenerative farming means that we're not tilling the soil. So we take the beds, which were cover crop during the dormant part of the season, which down here is the rainy season, and now it's turning to dry season. So we cut back the cover crops, and that decomposes on top of the bed. And then we take this tool, which we just got. It's called the yeoman's plow. And I know, you've heard that term yeoman before, but it's called the yeoman's plow. And these plows have these tines which go down into the soil about 2 feet deep. And they're very narrow. They're only maybe 2 inches wide. So they don't turn the soil, they open the soil. And each bed, we have 2 rows of soil that's opened up 2 feet deep. And into those troughs within the bed, rather than turning and loosening the soil that way, like you do in conventional farming, we're just opening up aeration points, and we're injecting, as that is opened, what we call E01 here in Costa Rica, or mountain microorganisms, which is a blend of forest material from the forest floor, and we make these preparations that's made with rice semolina and yeast and molasses and coffee grinds and cloves and cinnamon, and we ferment all that, and then we take that liquid and we then inject it into this space. So what we're doing is injecting the foundation for a soil food web to flourish up to 2 feet deep in the soil, which is going to go and open up space. It's going to aerate. It's going to bring nutrients. It's going to, be a fertile a platform for worms to populate. And you should see all the worms in our farm this year.
I'm
I
sure.
know it's really crazy, but it's beautiful to see. So for ashwagandha, we're intentionally opening these 2 rows where the herb is going to be seeded, where we're going to plant the seedling, because we want the root to grow straight down and go deep in and receive the benefit of all this mountain microorganisms and all the nutrients, because we have very fertile soil. But opening up the soil and getting it aerated for ashwagandha is going to create much more vigorous root growth. So when we do that, we anticipate the roots will grow much more robust. They'll have more nutrient and phytoactivity, more nutrient density, and in 5-6 months when we harvest, we'll have really good biomass
So
and
this
probably very good phytoactivity to go along with that.
So basically, you're taking away the path of root resistance, running into things that are too hard. You're clearing the way so they can flourish and grow and be strong and beautiful.
We want the soil to be in such a way for ashwagandha to take these roots, which want to grow, to get them to grow real deep and pick up the nutrients that are deep.
Nice. And that's just opening it up and, no resistance. They could just have the benefit of growing deep and long and healthy. That's beautiful.
So what happens after we create the yeoman troughs, we add E01 and then we make our own compost. And then we're adding compost to that. And that's what the I'm as we're talking right now, my mind is going to the compost pile. And just the visual I have of the compost pile, Jeff, it's amazing. It's like these long 300-foot windrows of beautiful dark compost, and that's what's going into these troughs where the ashwagandha is going to grow. And that too is loaded with mycelia and hyphae and all the foundations for the soil food web to flourish.
When you hear all this, you think to yourself, almost instantly, why is everyone not growing every single crop in the world regeneratively? It just makes sense.
But I do want your listeners to know one thing, that there's enough of evidence that shows that when you do grow regeneratively and you don't till your soils and you leave a green carpet on the top of your soil, you are sequestering carbon. And the amount of carbon drawdown is significant. I once heard just recently that if every farm in the country, in the world, grew regeneratively, properly regeneratively, we could draw down enough of carbon to reverse climate change. And we can do it without having to move every vehicle on Earth to electric status. So it's a pretty daunting proposition to the leaders of the world to think about what regenerative farming can do for the bigger problems that we're confronting today.
And on another note, but very equally important, if not even more equally important, as the carbon drawdown and the benefit for the soil and the topsoil and the planet, what about the yielding? When you grow regeneratively, you are able to yield more success with your crops, yes?
Well, there are two factors that measure yield. One is the biomass. So
Okay.
how much does the yield come out of the ground? What's the weight of that? And we're noticing on all of our crops that we're getting much more biomass than we were even growing organically. And then the second measurement of yield is phytoactivity.
Right.
Are you creating higher nutrient density in the crops that you are yielding? And the answer is, resoundingly yes.
Those are both very important markers. It's wonderful. And you can see from the background there, it is beautifully lush and green, and it's amazing. Now, are you still in the rainy season, getting ready to stop that now, going to the drier season?
Yeah, we're at the end of December. December is a transition. So by the end of the month, we should be full on into the dry season.
Dry meaning no rainfall at all, or just very intermittently?
Yeah, very intermittently, if any.
If any. Okay.
Until April, until mid to end of April, and then we're back with the rains.
Yeah, someone was asking about that, and I said I think it's like a 9-month rain cycle and like a 3-month dry cycle. So I think I was close.
Yeah, more like 4 months. But then
4.
when the rainy season kicks in, except for the month of May, June, July, August, even September can be gorgeous here. We could have mostly sunny days and a little afternoon, evening rain, which is beautiful.
Yeah. The question comes in, with ashwagandha, obviously that it's become a very popular, word for people to Google and ask questions about. And as its popularity is really growing among circles of people that may not, for whatever reason, have ever known about it, and it's become something that they really enjoy. How do you recommend ashwagandha being used? I mean, and the age brackets, are younger individuals candidates as well?
Yeah, so the question that might confuse people when you ask the question, what is ashwagandha good for and who is it good for? I think a question that comes to my mind is it good for energy or is it good for sleep?
That's a good
And
question.
because you hear people using it for both,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
it is good for both. And that's because it shows up as an adaptogen. But for those people who want to build their foundational energy and have more energy throughout the day, ashwagandha taken over first 3-6 months could give you a lot of energy, day to day to day. However, if you're not a good sleeper and you want to get more deep and more deep sleep, more REM sleep, more the productive kind of sleep, ashwagandha is a very good herb for that. So
I love
that's
it.
yeah. I mean, if a herb is functioning to those extremes, then it's doing something fundamentally good for the body. And younger and younger people today are showing up. And this was probably seen, Jeff, after COVID. Now 5 years after COVID, about the long responses that people are showing post COVID. people are showing up in a way that we've never seen before with regards to their stress levels, and their depressed immune function, and their energy levels, their fatigue. Um, Today's world has become a world that's screaming for ashwagandha use. And I'm not speaking about those of us who have become wiser in life, with a few more years, but I'm also speaking to the 20-year-olds, the 20 to 30-year-olds.
I see the popularity growing, and the articles are coming out even more often, and I'm just so happy that we have the availability to utilize something grown also in a regenerative nature, because it's something we're going to have to start focusing on, and I'm glad that the movement is there and the interest is there. Obviously the need is there.
Yeah, the need is there, and you know, just for stress and energy and sleep, those are the three biggest complaints that people are presenting these days.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't necessarily need to go to a doctor to address why our energies are low, or why our stress is high, or why we're not sleeping, unless there is some significant reason for us underlying that. But most people are manifesting these kind of issues, and I would say look at the ashwagandha type formula that we have. It's regenerative grown, and it's concentrated, and it's produced in a manner that is very sensitive to the phytochemistry, the phytoactivity, and it's delivered in a way that's easily absorbed. So we're covering all the bases for the consumer here.
Now, at Kokora, you're going to be coming out with rock singles, so people can take the individual herbs, regeneratively grown, obviously, in a singular form. But you're also coming out with blended combinations. If you have your druthers, would you recommend somebody using ashwagandha as a single, or do you feel that the synergism brought about by using them in a combination with friends from the neighborhood, if you will, is more effective, or is it different for everyone?
Um, I'm always a fan of synergy, that's for sure. And
Yes.
as you know, I have been at this a long time, and I've formulated a lot of products
Yes,
over
sir.
the years. And I always gravitate personally towards formulas when they're formulated properly. And I'm fortunate to have a background, Jeff, of constitutional understanding. I don't formulate for the symptom. I formulate for the person manifesting those symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
and try to build up, the constitution, while, causing those symptoms to dissipate. If you had a need to take ashwagandha, certainly take it. But if you're dealing with stress or sleep issues or energy issues, Kokora will have a formula for you with ashwagandha in it that is properly formulated and synergized, so it will work to support all of the organ systems in constitution to bring about a change.
Could they both be used?
Yes,
That's
they
that.
can
You
both
know where
be.
I'm going with that. That's me.
Well, well, I mean, let's say you're using our sleep formula, the Kokora
Okay.
sleep formula, and you're taking that at night, and but you want to fortify it. You may want to take a capsule or two of ashwagandha in the morning,
Okay.
to balance out, your overall adaptive response.
That's the answer I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah,
Because it makes good sense, because, I'll be using the nighttime formula to enhance the whole experience of getting a quality night's sleep. But during the day, I definitely want to be able to have the ashwagandha to do what I need to do during the day, during my waking hours.
yeah.
Very, very important.
You know, um, when I was in naturopathic practice, um, we used to see subclinically. You can't measure these things oftentimes in blood workup or lab workup. A lot of young women coming in with subclinical low thyroid function.
Mm.
And, you know, I always interpreted it to the environmental disruptors that we're being exposed to these days. But when you look at ashwagandha and look at one of the other realm of benefits, which kind of brings on, kind of leads you to better energy, is ashwagandha is capable of supporting healthy thyroid function, and it's capable of making the conversion, helping the body make the conversion from T4 to T3, which is the more usable form of thyroid. And so for those manifesting these subclinical thyroid issues with low energy, or poor, maybe the skin doesn't have its glow, the eyes don't have its glitter, and maybe overall the body is kind of just not feeling fully radiant. Maybe you're cold a lot, and subthyroid symptoms manifest in different ways, but we saw it maybe 70% of the young females coming in. And so ashwagandha could be very helpful and could help balance out the system in these kind of situations.
A question that comes up a lot, obviously, when we're dealing with vitamins and minerals, obviously we want to use them with food. Obviously, they work better when taken with food. How do you recommend taking your herbs? With food, without food, or is there not a benefit either way?
It depends. Some herbs I would definitely say, like for the sleep formulas or anything related to sleep, take 1 hour before bed. So hopefully you're not eating 1 hour before bed.
True. True.
Some herbs, I would say take, in fact, most of the herbs take between meals, and so it doesn't interfere with your meals, or the meals don't interfere with its absorption. And oftentimes it depends how well is the herb prepared for proper absorption. I can tell you that we spent a lot of time, as you know, on assimilation, absorption with the Kokora product line. How are you best absorbing these products, these capsules? And I've created them in a way to enhance your absorption. So when you take them on an empty stomach, you're going to get sort of a rapid absorption that's going to be noticeable pretty early on because of the way they're prepared.
Okay, this I just wanted to touch on because I think it's important. We have a lot of people out there, even in the natural and with medications as well, that feel that 1 is good, 5 is better. And I'm just wondering, with Kokora, should we follow the recommendations of serving size? And do you make adjustments individually? Let's say that you have more weight on your frame, or you're under a little bit more stress. Can you do those fluctuations, or should you follow the protocol?
Generally, I think everyone's different.
True.
We all show up in the world differently. And I think, first of all, everything that we're growing and producing is safe. And everything that we're growing and producing is tested in our research institute for, the impact it has on the functions on the body. And so we're testing for, the patterns towards efficaciousness with all these herbs. And so safe and efficacious is on everyone's mind. And then when you consider the dose, what would happen if I took an extra capsule? You recommend 2 caps. What if I took 3? Well, I think nothing derogatory is going to happen, when you lift and add another capsule, because you might be heavier, or you might want more of an impact. But, keep in mind, these herbs are safe for the most part, and they've been tested. And if you feel a need to take an extra dose, then by all means, you're not going to be harmed by it.
So if you could leave everybody today with just a couple little bullets. Ashwagandha, grown on the farm down in Costa Rica with Kokora, grown regeneratively, elevates the effectiveness of the herb, the quality, the response that it gives us to the body. What would you leave everybody with so they know that the products that are actually grown on the farm are taking them to the next level in a healthy, beautiful way?
Well, I can assure the listeners that all Kokora products are safe and efficacious, and that means effective. And I can assure you that they're made in harmony with nature, that we are not a disruptor of nature, that we are working, and this is one of the reasons why the tagline for Kokora is life regenerated. We're working in harmony with nature to restore a life that is truly regenerative for ourselves and for our environment. And I put a lot of attention, a lot of heart, and a lot of just passion into ensuring that as we bring out this line, we're doing it in a way that is of the highest integrity and of the deepest connection to nature.
So, thank you. This was beautiful, and I just think it's so important and a perfect time of the year to be able to be talking about this topic and this beautiful herb. Leave everybody with a thought for the day, a Ric Scalzo thought for the day.
Wow, we're in a time of solstice, and
Yes.
is today the solstice? Just yesterday maybe was. We're in
It's
a
yesterday
time,
or today.
yeah. Anyway, when you're recording this, it's solstice time, and this is a time to think about our inward journey and about our connection to the underlying stillness that guides all dynamism in life. And I think just a reminder to everybody is that, let's not turn away from this important value of stillness in our life, and especially as the foundation, stillness as a foundation for dynamism. And let's create an opportunity, a platform for a 2025 that is based on the truth and the integrity that lies in awakening stillness in our world, and because it guides all dynamism, it guides all creativity, all expression of energy, and it guides all order in life. We need stillness to guide our leaders and all of us today. So we can all kind of take a moment and get in touch with stillness. It will nurture us, and it will nurture others as well.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Ric, for being here today. And I hope everybody enjoyed. This was episode 2 of the Ric Scalzo Herbal Series. Today, Ashwagandha. If you missed the first one, the turmeric one, you got to go listen to it because it was very educational and very engaging. And I hope that you'll do that. I want to remind everybody, go to my webpage, drjeffreyburke.com, tap on the YouTube logo, and it'll take you right to the YouTube page where you can watch every one of these wonderful interviews. And you'll be able to see the entire series as we create them with Ric. And these are beautiful herbs. But I hope everyone take care of yourself, do something wonderful for yourself today. Ric, thank you for being here today, as always, my friend.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you
Be
so
well,
much.
everyone. Stay healthy, and God bless.
Stay tuned for more information from the Honest Health Podcast with Jeffrey Burke. And make sure to check back often for interviews and conversations from the guests we all want to hear from. I'm John the Announcer. Thanks for listening.